Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hiramat. Vachana is a form of literature in Kannada language. It has its own uniqueness. It is being developed thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago. But it has got its form properly in the 11th and especially 12th century of common era in the history of Kannada language and literature. Vachana literature covers all the things which are associated with the lives of human beings and other creatures. It is very near to the nature of human beings and creatures. Of course, that Vachana means saying the things already said. That is one of the meanings. And another meaning is Vachana means a promise. And another is a word, because here we give importance to the word, to the promise. Once promise is given, it is bound for all the things, or it is bound until the goal is reached. So, in such a social upheaval, that Vachana form has taken place in Kannada language, one of the Dravidian languages in India. Of course, this Vachana form has its own uniqueness. Generally, we try to understand Vachanas on the basis of Shakti Vishishtadvaita. But in addition to Shakti Vishishtadvaita, if we know other things, we can understand Vachanas very properly. Of course, most of the Vachanas are based on Shakti Vishishtadvaita, a philosophical thought, a school of thought in India. Of course, there are generally 6 schools of thoughts. They are called Vachanas. They are Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, Purvamimamsa, Uttaramimamsa, and other one, I think. Generally, we have these 6 schools of thoughts. In India, in one way or another way, a religion is belonged to either these one of the schools. Of course, these schools again are divided into so many factors, but here I do not want to go into the depth of that thing because of the viewers, because of the limitation of the time and other things. But anyhow, these Vachanas are based on the Shakti Vishishtadvaita, which is very popular in India, especially in Karnataka. It has its own followers. Of course, this Shakti Vishishtadvaita is also called monism. So we have the thoughts of dualism, non-dualism, monotheistic, monistic, etc., etc. Of course, these four thoughts, these four religious thoughts play a prominent role in Karnataka or in southern India especially. Not only southern India, we can also see it in northern India in a different way, in a different form. But of course, the importance of them cannot be denied. And if we know them, definitely they help us to understand Vachanas better, more and more. Most of the Vachanas, I have already told you, are based on the monistic philosophy. But other Vachanas are also there. They do not anyway indicate this thing, but in addition to other things, they indicate dualism, either dualism or non-dualism or monistic, monotheistic and or monastic. But in addition to that, if we know the other philosophies, Western philosophies, of course, it helps to understand Vachanas more and more in the background of the social upheaval at that time, and of course in the background of the things happened nowadays also anywhere in the world. When we think of Western philosophy, automatically we have materialistic, dialectical materialism, Abrahamic thoughts, etc., etc. If we have the knowledge of these schools of thoughts, these philosophies, it helps to understand Vachanas more and more in a proper way. That is why if we look at Vachanas, if we read Vachanas and study Vachanas only in the background of Shakti Vishishta Advaita, that is not helpful. Of course, most of the Vachanas talk of Ashtavaranas, Panchacharas and Shatastalas. And they also indicate Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Shakti Vishishtadvaita, etc., etc. In addition to that 6 schools of thoughts, they also indicate this. And these things in one way or another, I have already said that belonged to these 6 schools of thoughts. Of course, these Eastern thoughts are very important in understanding Vachanas. It is very important to understand Vachanas in the background of these philosophies or these religious-based thoughts. Automatically, in one way or another way, we can understand Vachanas properly. Of course, in addition to that Lokayata, there is a theory of atheist and theistic and spiritualistic, other things are there. If we apply these schools of thoughts or these thoughts while reading and studying Vachanas, automatically we can have more meanings regarding the life of a man and creature and space. See? But so many people try to understand Vachanas only in the background of one school of thought or the other school of thought. If you try to understand it in one school of thought, automatically the scope of Vachanas will be minimized. But of course, Vachanas have their own scope. Of course, that scope is extended on and on. It can be seen worldwide. And that is why even Vachanas are written in the 11th and 12th centuries of Common Era. They are relevant even today in the 22nd centuries of Common Era. That shows to what extent Vachanas are relevant, to what extent Vachanas show the path to the disturbed world. Whatever form of literature is there, whatever form of movement is there, they pick up their subject from these Vachanas even today. It may be the moment of revolt, that is Bandaya, a movement of progressive, a movement of Navya romantic, a moment of neo-romantic, etc., etc. And of course, a form of literature, it may be a verse or anything else. We can see this in reading these Vachanas. So when we pick up so many things from Vachanas while expressing our thoughts and emotions, automatically it means they are even today influencing the literatures and literary field. And to that extent, these Vachanas are relevant in order to understand life, in order to express our thoughts, because at that time, so many persons who didn't have voice have voiced their feelings and thoughts. And these Vachanas become voice for voiceless. Of course, these Vachanas or this Vachana form is able to express whatever thoughts, whatever feelings we have very powerfully, very properly. Vachanas have their own verse form. Of course, it is a blank verse. They don't follow this rule or that rule. But they are the spontaneous overflow of emotions and thoughts. And those spontaneous overflow of emotions and thoughts have been structured according to those thoughts and feelings. So, while structuring, while forming these thoughts and spontaneous thoughts and feelings, automatically they have got their own forms. They have got their own ways of expressing their emotions and thoughts. That is what we can see in Vachanas. So if you take the example of Vachanakaras, that is the composers of Vachanas, it is very clear. Thousands of composers are there. We can identify them since 11th century of Common Era till this day. I have already told you in one way or other ways. Readers of literature have been influenced in one way or other ways. These Vachanas not imposed the influence upon them, that they impressed the minds of the readers and they impressed the literatures also. So it shows to what extent these Vachanas are very powerful, to what extent these Vachanas can be used even today. And if you take the example of some of the Vachanas, we will come to know to what extent they are expressed the feelings and thoughts, to what extent they have the social relevancy, to what extent they try to change the existing system, and to what extent they oppose the established injustifiable social system. Of course, by opposing the unjustifiable social system, they try to establish a social system which is equal, which provides equality, fraternity, and liberty to the people in general. It doesn't consider the discrimination between sex, between rich and poor, between others. It tries to identify the equal spirit in the life of a person. And it has its own background. Sometimes it is materialistic, sometimes it is religious, sometimes it is spiritualistic, sometimes it goes beyond all these things also. Sometimes it talks of space and it goes beyond the space also. So if you take the examples of Allama Prabhu, definitely we will come to know to what extent these Vachanas express the things in their own way. Here, I simply quote a Vachana of Allama Prabhu. One's linga relates with body. Look, knowledge settles in prana. The duality of inside and outside is merged in one meaning as I think of you, Guheshwara. Of course, Guheshwara is the sign of Allama Prabhu. Every Vachanakara, every composer of Vachana has his or her own signature. Of course, the signature may be the name of a god. The god may be static, or it may refer to static, that is a stavara, or jangama, movable or immovable. So anyhow, through using that sign, signature, they express, they show their identity, they show their thoughts. Here, once linga is related to body, automatically knowledge settles in prana. Because the relationship in body and mind is very important. The relationship between body and prana, that is breathing, is very important. If linga is related to body, of course it settles in prana. So if we have the knowledge of yoga, we can try to understand this one also. And once it settles, automatically the duality of inside and outside is merged in one meaning. So once linga relates to body and body settles in prana, automatically we have the duality of inside and outside. That is, outside movement and inside spirit are merged in one meaning. So here, if we have the knowledge of duality and the knowledge of yoga, we can understand the Vachana of Allama Prabhu properly. If we apply it, we can understand more and more. Then another Vachana, she is a woman composer. She was the wife of Urlinga Peddi. Of course, she is a very powerful writer. She comes from downtrodden community. That downtrodden community doesn't know it doesn't have any background of the literature, or it doesn't have voice at that time. But here, by using this Vachana, by using the form of Vachana, that woman composer expresses her thoughts and feelings very powerfully. That Vachana is like this. Of course, the composer is Kalave. Those who are without Kayaka are not devotees. That which is not truthful and pure is not kayaka. Desire is the seed of this world. Lack of desire is liberation. Look over. It is not easy with Urilinga Peddigala Rasa. Of course, Urilinga Peddigala Rasa is the signature of Kalave. She was the Punyastri of Urilinga Peddi. Here she talks of Kayaka. She talks of work because we think work is worship. If you want to achieve something, you know that work must be there and work should be considered as works. That involvement must be there. Without involvement, you cannot do the work. If you do without involvement, that doesn't become a work properly. So, that work should be truthful, the work should be pure, then only we say kayaka. If it is not truthful, if it is not pure, then it doesn't become a kayaka, it simply becomes a meager work. And if we have the desire, of course, that is the seed of this world. Of course, Buddha says desire is the cause for all sorrows. If we have the knowledge of Buddhism, we can try to understand. But of course, that Kalave doesn't have that much of knowledge regarding that thing. She was an illiterate, as we think. But she was literate in her emotions, in her own thoughts, in her own folklorist thoughts. So that is why desire is the cause for sorrow. And when desire is lacked, automatically we have the liberation. That is, if we give up desire, if we go beyond desire, then we have that liberation. So, it is not easy as to give up that desire, as to go beyond desire, but once it is gone, automatically we have our own liberation, we have at the feet of God, at the feet of Ishvara, Shiva, because most of the Vachanakaras are Shaivites. They are the devotees of Shiva. So here, the Vachana is simple, it is in blank verse, and the thoughts and emotions expressed are very powerful. So, here if we have if we have the understanding of Buddhism, then we can understand this Vachana better, more and more. Then another one. How terrible it is to reject and go away from the love of a slender woman, of a swelling youth, bountiful breasts, small waist, ear dropping wet. Look, my mind shrank and body melted away, yearning for the lover called Akandeshwara. This Akandeshwara is the signature of Shanmukha Swami, who lived in the 17th and 18th century of Common Era in the history of Karnataka, India. Of course, he thought that Linga is Pati and Anga is Sati. That is, the Bhakta is the Sati and Shiva is the Pati. Shiva is in the form of Linga. And that Bhakta, that devotee, it may be man or woman devotee, is a Sati. Or we can say simply body is a Sati and Linga is a Pati. That Anga Sati, Linga Pati, that concept, that body, the wife, and Linga, the husband, that concept. So, that Anga, that body is slender, it is thin, like a woman, it is swelling like a width, it has a bountiful breast, it has a small waist, and on the other hand, ear dripping wet. If these traits are there automatically. It is very beautiful. Of course, we apply beauty to the woman especially. But of course, here, not only woman, a body, whether it is a man or woman or any other creature, is beautiful. Of course, it is very terrible to go away from that beauty. Because sometimes that foul, Shakespeare says, foul is fair, fair is foul. Whatever fair, whatever beautiful is foul, is bad. Whatever bad, whatever foul is beautiful also. That is, it is very difficult to go away from that beauty. But here, that Akhandeshwara, that Shanmukha Swami tries to go away from that beauty, but he has his own beauty concept. What is that? That look, my mind shrank and body melted away, yearning for the lover called Akhandeshwara. See, his body and mind are melted. They want to have, he or she wants to have a lover, but his lover or her lover is Akhandeshwara, is Shiva. Generally, a man loves a woman, or woman loves a man, or man loves a man, or man loves any creature. He expresses his beauty, he expresses his love in the form of that body and mind. But here, Shanmukha Swami applies it to Shiva because he loves Shiva. His lover is Shiva. That's why his body and mind is melted in the love of Shiva. So that Shiva is called Akhandeshwara. That Shiva is everywhere. He is omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. That Akhandeshwara, we can see him everywhere. So in the form of spirituality or in the form of Shiva, he expresses his love. See how these Vachanakaras are different from the common people. Here, if we have the spiritualistic outlook, if we have the concept of Angasati, Lingapati, then only we can analyze this Vachana at our level best. So here, that is the man and mind must be there. That is, if man and mind are melted together, then only we can understand his concept. Of course, the same way, in a different form, in a different, using different words, Akkamarevi is also used this concept. Most of the Vachanakaras used this concept, no doubt about it. Like this, these Vachanas have their own importance. So my point is this: while reading and understanding and studying Vachanas, if we have the concept of these schools of thoughts, whether Eastern or Western, we can understand Vachanas more and more. We can apply Vachanas to all aspects of life in one way or another way, and by that we can go beyond this world. We can be one of in the space, and at the end of life, he or she or any creature becomes spaceless. Of course, space in the sense bayalu, here emptiness. See, in one way or another way, man or woman or the any creature becomes empty. That is, it becomes space and spaceless. Becoming a spaceless is not that much of thing, It requires a sort of achievement. That achievement can be seen in these Vachanakaras. That is why, if you read Vachanas merely, we do not give a justice to the study of Vachanas. But if we keep these concepts while reading and studying Vachanas, definitely Vachanas, that is the reading of Vachanas, becomes very meaningful and very powerful. So, in this way, we have to approach the reading of Vachanas. I hope you think of it. I hope you would subscribe and share it with others also. See you in the next episode, and until that time, Namaskara. Thank you.